series. Now, the Sixers, of course, are there because they knocked off the Celtics in what was an unbelievable Game 7 the other night in Boston. And Jaylen Brown was clearly not happy being at home this quickly. And this is what he had to say about the play of Joel Embiid last night during a live stream on Twitch.
I mean, this is my personal opinion on basketball. Some of y'all might disagree. You know what I mean? But argue with your grandma. Flopping has ruined our game. Joel Embiid is a great player, one of the best bigs in basketball history. Flops. He know it. This ain't breaking news. This ain't, you know what I mean? It is what it is.
So I thought that was interesting. I mean, the venue, here we are in 2026. We got NBA players making really interesting and important comments during a live stream on Twitch. But what is your reaction, first and foremost, to what he said and him saying it?
So first off, Jaylen Brown is one of the smartest people I've met in a long time. Like that's given. He's allowed and entitled to his opinion. But to me, this is almost like a relationship that you can have with your wife or significant other. How many times, and we can all relate to this, how many times in conversations where there's something that you want to say, and you know you should say it, but the timing just isn't right for you to say it. That was one of those times. Like you just lost in Game 7 against a team that did work against you. We know that Joel Embiid flops. We get it. But I just want some, and he took some accountability because it was a long stream. But that soundbite, you know that soundbite is going to be the thing that's going to be used because it feels like it's about excuses. And that's not who Jaylen Brown is. That's not the kind of culture he comes from, nor he established. Said a lot of great things during that stream. But that one thing, he should not have said that. You don't need excuses.
Well, just in a general thing, it's something that we talk about all the time in the league. The flopping, the extending the offensive arm, defenses not having a chance, trying to sell something to the officials with the chicanery, and then us having the ability to have replay and look at it frame by frame. It is something that the league should take a look at. It is part of gamesmanship. But like you said, you don't want to hear that the day after you get eliminated in a series where you led 3-1 as the team everybody expected to get back to the NBA Finals. That's not the day for that conversation from a player from that team.
Well, so this morning, I agreed with y'all, but now I want to know, when is the time for that conversation?
Sometime during the offseason. I just words in your mouth.
I kind of, now that we're kind of at our table thinking, I kind of disagree actually, because I think in the offseason, it has lost some of its energy, some of its moment, right? Whether he ends up getting fined or whatever the case may be, we're all discussing it. I'm sure that, not that the officials need our opinions to go back and review how well they are or are not calling the game, but I do think there's something to be said for getting a fervor and getting something going to really bring in attention to a thing.
I agree. I just think sometimes you have to be careful with turning into therapy sessions on streaming sessions. Because that's sometimes what happens, right? And I think there's a lot of emotions that you experience a couple hours after a game as opposed to the next day. You might think about how to go about that differently.
Okay, so if we're going to go here, we're going to go here. I wanted to talk about the end of the Celtics season, but if this is going to be the topic for a minute, let's make it the topic. One of the reasons that people my age are constantly complaining about the style of play in the NBA today, and the young players don't like it, and they don't like hearing it about how great things used to be and all the rest of that, is you cannot at the same time be selling calls, which is the definition of selling calls is purposely trying to confuse the officials, purposely trying to make the officials get it wrong, and then complaining on every single play when you don't get a call that you're looking for. You cannot do both of those things. And that is the frustrating thing about watching the sport now. Every time a guy goes to the basket and his shot doesn't go in, he's going like this, running back up the floor, yelling, screaming at the officials. But then he's the same guy who's falling down, selling this, whatever it is, whenever someone's hand maybe grazes the tip of his nose. And so what you're doing is you are purposely trying to fool the officials. You're doing that, and then you're asking them, how come you're not doing your job perfectly? That's a very difficult position to be putting them in. I'm not the first person always to defend officiating, but in this case, I'm defending the officiating.
The term, I believe, is ethical hoops, right? Like ethical basketball. That's the term that we use inside the big top, right? I think, to me, the old people have to take responsibility as well, because I come from a city where in Detroit, if you play too physical, People complained about that and said, no, we want to clean up the game. The Michael Jordans of the world, we want to see them fly through the air, and if they get fouled, call it. Now you can't say, oh, well, now you're selling calls, because selling calls works. So it's not about, like, you're confusing the illness with the symptoms.
But I don't
believe the symptoms is asking the league, what do you want to be as a league? Do you want to be competitive, or do you want to be pretty?
Yeah.
And I think the league has trended too far towards pretty and not towards competitive. That's why playoff basketball and regular season basketball looks like
so
two
different.
completely different
I like
sports.
that.
But I think you can be competitive. But there's sometimes when I watch Joel Embiid, who is his size and his frame, there's no way he gets pushed off the block like that.
Oh, no, don't look good.
There's so many times you're
watching
watching games, right, where you're sitting there as a judgment call for a referee, and you're like, okay, why? Why do you keep bailing him out? Like, we're just talking about basketball calls. Like, it's so apparent and obvious that he is acting. He acts.
But that to me, that goes, if all the officials are doing it, if it's one official that's doing it, then you point to the one official. If every official is doing it, it's not incompetence. It's what they're being told by the league office to do. Once again, you're pointing at the visual of what you see. I'm talking about at the grassroots level, what the officials are being told by the league office, because they're being graded on how they should or should not adjudicate these plays.
So let's push this forward a little bit, because we're going to have two very interesting styles of getting the officials' attention when you talk about Embiid versus Karl-Anthony Towns in this next series. And so when we look at Embiid, part of it is like, dude, you're too big, you're clearly flopping. When people look at Karl-Anthony Towns, dude, you're too big, finish, you're clearly being dramatic. How this gets officiated, Greeny, I don't know if we'll be back to this.
Right.
This will be very fascinating to see how this unfolds.
I'll tell you that Jalen Brunson also is very good at
baby, yes, he is.
On his head back and back.
We're talking about bigs that do it, but guards do it
Shake
left.
too, yeah,
It's their career. Like, this swoop thing.
And I will say to you, Jay, because you got kids in the AAU circuit. When I watch AAU basketball and I see clips and I see guys flopping their head back all the time, like the first time they get something, like that's not the way that we were taught playing basketball, and it gets down to that level. That part sickens me.
So, and then to be fair, Jaylen Brown said this on a Twitch after being eliminated. But earlier this season, we had Kay Cunningham basically say that you can't touch Shea. Like, that is on record from multiple guys.
Right. Yeah, so this was not at all the intention that we had here. I wanted to talk about the Celtics. And so
That's got derailed.
we're going to find a different time to do that, but I think this was a worthwhile conversation to have. The reality, Joel Embiid is just a little bit unlike any other player, because he spends more time on the ground in a basketball game than your average football player does in a football game. It is remarkable how many times he seems to be on the ground at the end of every single play. Who was it that said in our meeting this morning they think that's just the way he... What did you say about him?
I think because he's trying to protect himself to some degree from his body being a little brittle, that he throws himself on the ground to save himself. But I will also say this. I watch football all the time, and there were years where whenever Tom Brady got brushed, he would go after an official, and 10 seconds later, a flag will come out, and they say, roughing the passer. So gamesmanship happens everywhere.
See, but I don't run those clips back. I don't know if when you throw yourself into an opponent, that's you protecting yourself.
I'm not saying in every case.
I think he's a European soccer player in a big person's body.
Yeah, he played soccer. That's
right. Like that's what that is. That's that influence where every single call, there's extra actions that aren't required, and there's drama on the ground. Think about I came back from Inter Miami watching a game with those guys, right? Guys down on the ground.
Yeah.
Looks up, trying to get the ref call. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So we have that. We will. Our producer Eric is right now trying to figure out where we're going to put the Celtic conversation. That's coming up a little later in the program. And I remind you, on DraftKings Sportsbook, all customers can get a profit boost every day of the NBA playoffs. Download the app, use the promo